Hey guys, I was just feeling a bit bored, so I thought I'd do a battle report on the team I used this weekend. Basically, at my locals, we decided to do the X-Men OP kit finally. I came fourth in total, only losing one game, although we only played 3 rounds in the end. Um, and basically, I lost to a team that was Colossal Carnage, Goblin King, um, poison, and one symbiote and the symbiote object as well. Yeah, this team doesn't work really well when your hypersonic piece can't hypersonic at anything because they all have plasticity, or because it can't move anywhere at all because it's based by a load of bystanders that it doesn't want to hit because it doesn't want to waste an action on them. That also have plasticity, so that was a massive counter to my team. I was nearly able to cheese it, but I didn't quite get there. And in the end, the rest of the team dying really didn't give Thor much of a chance to win the game for himself. Although we did successfully kill Poison. So basically, the team composition is Thor Odinson. Now, this is the 175 point title character version of Thor. Um, to be honest, it's a massive investment, and I wasn't sure whether it was going to be worth it. Truth be told, but I'm happy to pay 165 points for Red Sun Wonder Woman, and I figured if this could just focus in on the actual figure, that would be fantastic. I'll just leave it. I figured if I paid 165 points for the Red Sun Wonder Woman, I could spring the extra 10 points for the title character abilities on this guy. They have very similar stats and abilities, mostly, with the difference being that Red Sun Wonder Woman has stop clicks and the free action mind control, and Thor having his title character abilities. So basically, obviously, the team composition was around him. I'm going to, at some stage, try the idea of using Thor with Bizarro Green Arrow in the old way that you do with Red Sun Wonder Woman, to see how that goes. But I'm probably going to put that off because it's just sort of came to me recently how many figures I need to use on teams before they go out of rotation in the middle of next year. Probably anyway. So that'll probably take a back burner. All I can really say about this guy is the only time he took loads of damage is because his defense power got outwitted, and then he just got smashed for 6, I think. And he was back on his top line by the end of the day. His ability to heal himself, tagged with the Jane Foster, and the ability to drag the Jane Foster over, is brilliant. The one thing you need to remember when placing the Jane Foster is that she can't use support if she is adjacent to opposing characters. It's only if Thor is adjacent to opposing characters that she can still use it. Because that's quite important. And I only noticed that on the day. It wasn't like something that came up because it shot me. To be honest, the Jane only managed to support, I think, the Rock Troll at any given time. Because people just know what this does and they don't want it around. But the Thor didn't really need the healing because that 19 defense holds up. The Invincible just makes him so tough. And in general, he's just such a chaotic figure. And I think people just want to kind of avoid him and take off the rest of your team. And if he can go at them, then, I only managed to get off his -8 title character ability once. And that is because for a lot of the games I was obviously having to use him to move people around and heal himself. But nonetheless, the one time I did use it, the game was already basically won by then. It's not a great one for constructed because obviously he has to be able to take the damage from using the title character abilities and not attacking, or you've got to make 8 attacks with him to get there. Well, 5 attacks with him to get there. Which is not unheard of, but it does take a while. So after the Thor, it was basically just filler. The obvious choice was Jane Foster, just to heal him up, because when you've got 175 points, invested in one figure, you definitely want to make sure they don't just die. Which I didn't need to be worried about because people were more worried about the Jane Foster, I think. Um, now, she is basically a standard support piece that you can still use when the character she's supporting is adjacent to an opposing character. And when someone is killed next to her, if she's still on the map, then you roll a d6 and she can turn into the only figure on the sideline, which is the female Thor, shown here holding Popyolnia, which was a running joke from the day, basically. And yeah, this Thor can be really good, especially if you get her out at the right time, which is why everyone goes for Jane Foster first, basically. Then after that, I had a bit of a point void because I chucked in one rock troll, but I only own one, so I couldn't put in any more than one, which would have really helped fill the points up. And these guys are really good. This guy was really tough. There was like a fair few points where he took hits that he really shouldn't have took and survived. Or that I really thought he wasn't going to take and survived. So this guy's really tough. I'd say he really tags up well with Thor to keep the Asgardian keyword. The one thing I would want for this team is Surtur for Colossal Retaliation, because there is a 20-point void that nobody is filling, even with this team composition. It's a retaliation. I can keep the Asgardian keyword, so I kind of feel like that's worth having. Plus, I just want a Surtur anyway. But nonetheless, there's not much I can say about this guy. He's tough. In the future, I'd maybe consider using the 20 points just to make him a bit more survivable. I mean, big, massive 18 defense on a 25-point figure is pretty good, but I don't know. It's worth making it harder for them to get the kill on him, to be honest, because he's an integral part in your team. And now, one thing I did a lot was used the title character ability to heal Thor and an Asgardian one click, not to get Jane Foster next to him to heal him more, but to bring Valkyrie into the fight. Because a lot of the time I use Valkyrie to taxi the Jane Foster, and for a point there I didn't really know how far into the battle to go, because obviously they still want to be with people, but they also don't want to be completely clattered, because she spawns bystanders when someone else is KO'd. So I wanted to give that a go, but this is kind of the most pointless figure on the board. Although the Warrior Souls definitely did a fair bit of work in some games. They definitely survived longer than the rest. This could be another Rock Troll and Surtur, or it could be like 3 Rock Trolls, or whatever you want. You could replace this with anything, but she did her dues. And, I definitely think she was worth using. But in streamlining a more competitive team, I'd probably drop her for Colossal Retail or more Rock Trolls or something. But at this point, she was like the point filler. So I just chucked her in for the bystanders and so on and so forth. And, like I say, she did pull her weight. She's just not completely amazing. The bystander spawning is really good. But obviously on this team, you've got a very limited amount of use that's going to bring out. The one thing I did notice, though, is that if Valkyrie makes a bystander token and it's KO'd next to Jane Foster, because her thing activates whenever a friendly character is KO'd, the bystander will turn her into Thor. So that's a pretty cool thing to keep in mind. Assuming Jane Foster wasn't adjacent to the person who was KO'd when Valkyrie made a bystander, or alternatively, if you just wanted to keep her around a bit longer. Turning to the last 20 points of the team, it was like equipment, and I didn't really know what to do, because obviously Thor Odinson is like the only part of the team that needs anything. Well, no, he doesn't need anything, that's my point. For example, there's no point sticking an entity on Rock Troll, because, maybe there is, but you can put Eclipse on him, and he's not, he's going to get impervious and stuff, but it's not particularly worth keeping around. Although I may U-turn on that point of view, to be honest, because he is pretty good. There's nothing worth giving to Valkyrie, really, and obviously there's absolutely nothing worth giving to Jane. So the last 20 points were like a question mark for me. I didn't really know what to do with them. And then on the day, I decided to grab Supreme Intelligence, because It's one of the many things that is almost definitely going to go out of rotation next year, and I thought it might be nice to actually get some use out of it. So I thought I'd stick it on him, and it might be quite helpful. Now, admittedly, the only things on it that were ever nearly useful were probability control and super sensors. There is a lot of phase and teleport and incapacitate, which is just fucking useless. But yeah, a couple of things on that dial were quite helpful at differing points. The interesting thing to think is that I thought this guy may be able to survive the game long enough for Supreme Intelligence to get to the end of its dial. It successfully did so on every game purely because he didn't die. At the end of my first game, we went at a time about 2 turns before I was able to heal him to his full click and bring it out. In my second game, I got to, which I lost, I got to click 17, I think. 16 or 17 before time was called, and I lost that one, which was pretty good because I was basically on the back foot for that entire game. And then in the last game, it was like I could call him in, or I could God of Thunder, and it was like a dilemma. And then that went to time as well, so I was actually gonna give it a bit of God of Thunder and then just swap into Supreme Intelligence to finish the game off, to finish off the last couple of pieces, but we ran out of time, so I didn't get a chance. And then the last 8 points I put in, because the two actually do tag together now, I put in weapon drop. Now what I used weapon drop for was picking it up with Valkyrie, because I figured she could get some use out of most of these things. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it landed on this click here, and she already has the Empower, so that was kind of useless. In my last game, I didn't even pick this up because I just didn't have the chance. To be honest, this thing was like, I really rate this. I really think this is a really good special object, but I definitely don't think it was any use to this team. That you could have given like Rock Troll a symbiote, or Jane Foster a symbiote just to make a harder hit, or Valkyrie a symbiote, or whatever, and then I had 2 points left over, and it would have made more of an impact than this. I think this was better than Supreme Intelligence really was, because Supreme Intelligence just didn't really bring anything to the game. Because like this guy's like packed, he doesn't need anything else. In future, I'd revise the 20 points to just shot unnecessary equipments on everything that could use some kind of boost. Like nothing on this team needs boosting, but you know, you can do unnecessary things just for the sake of it. And yeah, maybe next time that's the way to go if I don't have Certa by the time I actually play this team. So my main points are: take this out, Supreme Intelligence out, drop this for like another Rock Troll and Certa, or 2 Rock Trolls or whatever, and better equipments for everything. So yeah, the only sideline figure was this Thor. And if you're wondering, like, well, if I had a 20-point void, why didn't I just use it with ID cards? I figured that this team is such a tentpole that Thor was never going to call anything in, because you want Thor to be making his attacks and using his title character abilities. You don't want him to be calling in people. Plus, I don't have a whole lot of really high point call-ins right now, so it didn't really feel necessary, or that they'd be able to do more than Thor. Now, one of my favourite ID cards at the moment is Daredevil, and these two can call in the Defenders War Daredevil, but I didn't think it was worth using one card. In future, I may just chuck a load of cheap cards on, but to be honest, with the new special objects and everything everywhere, I'm trying to phase them out. I'm trying to phase ID cards out completely. We'll see how well that goes when the X-Men set comes out. Anyway, thank you for watching. I just realised that I've recorded this whole thing portrait rather than landscape, although the way I've recorded it means I kind of had to. So my apologies for the thin screen. Thank you for watching, and if you've got any ideas for this team, just shot me a comment. And one last thing about this guy. As I mentioned earlier, the only time he really got hit was having this Invincible outwitted. So I would say if you were planning on using him, maybe come up with a counter to outwit. Maybe like Captain Stacy or something. Or something like that. Anything that can just keep this guy alive. Or I don't know. Maybe you could even use the 25 points to put Eclipse on him, and then give him Impervious as well. And then he's only going to be able to use the one at a time, but you can't outwit both. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this team comp, and goodbye.